Our next session is titled Exploring Efficiencies with 3D Design and Construction. This is going to be a panel discussion, so we've got three folks up here that will be available to take some questions. We've actually gone through, based on our working so far with the 3D development and deployment out to the state, we've developed a few questions already based on some of those that we've been answering in all the districts we've been in, and we will let a fair amount of time for answering questions from out in the audience. But before we actually get started, and before I introduce the speakers, we do kind of have a little bit of a shameless plug for the design division and some of the operations that we have been doing and have the capability for providing for the districts out there. Our next slide is going to be about a 2-minute video. This is going to be a 4D representation of a construction project that we've just finished up for the Corpus Christi district. A group of our designers in the plan development section put together the 3D operation that you're going to see here, and then we've got one of our folks in the photogrammetry section in the design division who has actually become quite the expert at putting these visualizations together. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get this started. As you can see, there's no video or audio to the video. This is something that we think is going to be very useful for putting together public hearings, just conversations with folks, maybe even presenting at pre-bid meetings, which we've done a few of those throughout the state now, and then even the pre-construction meetings when we do this. So this is a section of SPD or US 358 in the Corpus District. The project is going to be a ramp reversal, and you can see right now this is showing the traffic patterns existing. And then the visualization is 4-dimensional, so if you look up in the top corner up here, you can see that the time is going to take off as we go through the different construction pieces, and as we look through the 3D visualization of the actual construction phases being done, it will show a time tick off there for the video. We think this will be very helpful with the public just to be able to see exactly how they're going to be interacting with the roadway over the construction time. As I said, this is a ramp reversal, so you can see here we're actually putting in retaining walls, putting in some temporary ramps or some new ramps, whichever the case may be here, and then eventually we're going to change that traffic configuration to a new configuration. This was a particularly intricate project because we had some very significant requirements from the district to maintain their current lanes of traffic as well as their exit and entrance ramps without disrupting the flow as much as we possibly could. So the 3D aspect of this helped us very much with the spatial orientation that we needed to be able to evaluate for traffic widths and lane widths, not only for the frontage road, but for the main lanes as well. As we go through these, we're going to be working on, potentially in the future, a 5D presentation, and that 5D presentation will add the aspect of the money that's being spent. So we would be incorporating our major items in the construction event, ticking those costs up as the time ticks down through that. And we think that's going to add just an extra amount of information that can be used as you go through the construction of the project, as well as in the planning sections, as far as how the money is going to be spent. I believe this is one of our final phases here, and then we'll get into our actual question and answer session. But as I said, this is a collaboration between our actual designers and the 3D capabilities of the software. This really didn't require a lot of additional work on the designer's part. The software really gave them the opportunity to have that 3-dimensional aspect of it. Although the actual visualization did take a fair amount of time on behalf of our photogrammetry section. Okay, with that, I think I'm going to go back. There we go. Who we have here on our panel for our discussion, we are going to start here with Brent Hillebrenner. Brent graduated from Texas University at Austin in 1996 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. Upon graduation, he began his career with Lubbock District, working for the urban area office as an EIT. In Lubbock, he performed design, surveying, and construction activities. After 10 years with Lubbock District, he transferred to the design division in 2006, where he is currently working in roadway PS&E delivery, as well as his most recent assignment as the project manager for the microstation and geopack project-wise implementation in TxDOT. Next to Brent is Eddie Acosta. Eddie graduated from Texas A&M University in 2009 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. Upon graduation, Eddie began work for the Laredo District, working in both construction and design. In 2003, he joined the staff of the Design Division's Plan Development section, where he got his professional engineering degree, or professional engineering license and master's degree in business administration. He is currently one of our project managers on several projects with the Odessa District, and he has been one of our subject matter experts for our Select Series 3 3D rollout. And finally, next to Eddie is Robert Nava. Robert has come to us from Williams Brothers, where he's had 20 years experience in construction. He's kind of been our expert, if you will, in the use of the 3D out in construction. He's been doing the construction surveying for 25 years and has worked on TxDOT projects in Houston District, Dallas District, San Antonio District, and the Waco District. So please welcome our panel up here, if you will, please. So, like I said, we kind of brought some questions with us based on what we've been getting from districts here. And so I'll just go ahead and throw one of them out here, and we'll get a design as well as a construction perspective on how the 3D is being explored in the efficiency. So the first question we have is, what does 3D design mean to you? So if we could, Robert, get a construction perspective.
Yeah, on the construction perspective, we've seen a lot of rendering on the presentation that got shown, but right now at the current state for contractors, what we look at is the surface, which is the finished product. That's what we currently utilize to not only survey out in the field, but also use with machine control. And for those of y'all that have used machine control, you'll know that you can take an XML, which is a surface, and dump it into that machine control, and you can start cutting, start giving grade right from the get-go. And I think that for a contractor, that's what's important.
Now, just a quick follow-up. Does the machine control the entire piece of equipment? So it's not an autonomous piece of equipment?
Yeah, actually there's two types. There's what we call the GPS control module, and then we have one that we use at Williams Brothers, which is the robotic control. Of course, the GPS, you get more ground, you cover more ground, but you don't have the level of accuracy as you do with a robotic instrument.
Okay. From the design perspective, Brent.
Okay, so I guess, what does 3D design mean to the designers? I think it's important to note, can y'all hear me okay? I think it's important to note that, we still do the mechanics of our design is still the same. We still work on a plane, we design our horizontal alignment, the plan graphics, curve returns, intersection, features and geometry. We still all do that all kind of on a plane as we traditionally do. And it's the software itself that actually manages the 3D view of what we're designing. And so we can look at that, designers look at that in real time and can see mistakes and can see, what's working and that sort of thing. So the expectation out of this for us is that we'll have a more robust design with fewer errors and less errors and omissions, change orders and that sort of thing. And it just gives us a chance to really dot all the I's and cross all the T's, which we really didn't have that with our old kind of criteria-based design.
Okay, thank you. Now, I did want to mention, as we get into some more of these questions, we do have microphones on both sides over here. If you would like to come up to the microphone for a question, that's fine. If you think you can shout it out loud enough, we'll work with that as well. So I'd like to open it up to see if there have any questions out there, anything that y'all wanted to ask one of our subject matter experts, either in design or construction, about 3D and use of 3D models.
Where do you see the use of 3D design in building construction? And what I mean by that is, from my experience, while at school, we were doing 3D design projects and able to actually import the 3D design file to an integrated system where we did get the contractors in the field access to that 3D design file, not to modify it, but to see what's actually there. Using GPS location, we can actually see in front of them using an iPad or any other integrated service what it is that's needed building, where it's being built. And with that top of mind, you see 3D design TxDOT going that direction, or is that a little bit beyond more the scope of what you would need?
Okay, if you couldn't hear that, and for the recording, the question was, where do we see 3D design going in TxDOT, and how, basically, to concise the question, how far are we looking to go? So I will throw that out from a design perspective.
Well, so as of right now, that's exactly what we're aiming at. These XML files that Mr. Nava was talking about, we're going to go ahead and put those into machines so you could have a GPS location. Yeah, there's XML files, it's an ICM model. It's exactly what you said. We're going to be transferring these files directly into the contractor.
How about from the construction perspective, Robert?
Yeah, I think for the future, that's what we're hoping for, an ICM file where not only are you working with surfaces, but you can also get a coordinate off a cap, or you can get a coordinate for a centerline variancy. That's where we would like the future to be, and I think that's, like Mr. Acosta said, I think that's where we're headed.
And I guess to piggyback on that, Eddie, we had talked about earlier, what are the other benefits that you can get out of the ICM models, as far as quantities and the features and everything that you can get out of those?
So the way the ICM model works, it's literally just your DGN file. And kind of just to backtrack a little bit, when we talked about 3D design, when you say what is 3D design, the only thing that's really changing, guys, is the way we're doing our cross sections. Now cross sections, if you're doing earthwork projects, you're basically going to be doing a 3D design project. And since we have to do our cross sections in 3D now, we're creating these models. Now these models contain lines, they contain grades, they contain surfaces, and all of that's going to be all referenced into one DGN, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to create an ICM model from that. Well, in the future we want to do ICM models. And basically everything in that DGN is going to be transferred over to the contractor. Your profiles, alignments, you could have your top of retaining wall called out, edge of flex space or edge of line, however you want to call it. Basically anything you have in that file can be transferred out. And then the contractor can turn on and off those levels as they wish, and everything could just be referenced in.
Okay. So we've talked about the surface or the ICM type model. What is it that we're actually talking about being the deliverable from a designer to a construction engineer?
So deliverable wise, there's visual, and then there's also files. So visual wise, you all saw a very nice visualization right now of what's going to be happening as far as traffic control goes. Conflict resolution, like Brent was mentioning earlier, that 3D design time visualization. Those are all visual aspects. There's a 3D PDF that we can provide the contractors, right? For the public, you could do a video for them so that they can navigate through a traffic control zone, or hey, this is what we're planning to do with this freeway. So the visual aspect is a very big benefit, and then there's also the files aspect, which we mentioned earlier, it's an XML file, and there's also an ICM file. ICM file is more proprietary to certain softwares, and the XML file could be uploaded to just about every software, and then it contains surfaces and lines and grades.
Okay. Any more questions that we have from the audience? Yes. Okay, the question was, currently in our disclaimers, we send our proposals out to our contractors as what is in the proposal governs, basically. And so what are we gonna do as far as models go, and how are we going to deal with disclaimers for how those interact with the actual proposal and how the contractors deal with that?
So we've been discussing amongst ourselves, and that's actually kind of been a question that's come up quite a bit, you know, since we started talking about 3D design really almost 9-10 years ago. And you know, what's going to govern? Well, initially, the models are going to be kind of like the cross sections are today. They're for contractors' information only. But as we progress, you know, and we'll talk about this here probably in a little, or here in a little bit. I think we have a question regarding future deliverables. But basically, they're going to be like cross sections. But we do hope that we do want contractors to take it and use it in the machine guidance, as well as hopefully, you know, see that it is a good design and put less risk into their bids. So,
Yes, sir.
This will be calculating dirt by the facing. Is it going to be TxDOT or is it going to be the contractor?
Okay, the question is, who will be calculating dirt by phase in the work, contractor, or will it be TxDOT?
So, well, all right, currently, it depends how you want to set up your plans. If you want to include construction earthwork, then you're going to have to do construction models to get those quantities. I think we were talking about earlier that you don't necessarily need to give the different construction models. You could probably do one surface and, you know, just subtract layers or, right?
Yeah, I think at the current state, what the contractor's after is just the surface. That's for the construction end of it. I guess for the future phasing, which is another question, I mean, that they can definitely provide it, if I'm not mistaken, and they could provide that quantity. But I think that's still part of the future of phasing on the construction end.
Now, on that same question, we have come across a project here just recently where we have been requested to do specifically the construction phasing and models. So if you can, just a little bit about how you're managing that on the project currently.
So we're going to go ahead and do construction models. They want to know earthwork for the left side of the road and the right side of the road. And we're going to end up doing a model it's basically we have our final template or final model, and we're just going to cut that in half and run cross sections for just half the roadway. Then we'll do another model with cross sections on the other half of the roadway, so we'll get quantities for per phase. Also, on previous projects, we had to provide information for contractors. So it was a bridge widening job. We had a slope, and there was a requirement that we wanted the contractor to actually bench out that side slope so we could get a nice solid compaction and real good widening. And that benching was actually a construction model that we did. It's the US 190 job in Beaumont. Y'all can look it up. I think it's probably on YouTube. And we did several different phasings for that to get those quantities.
Yes, sir.
Is 3D design
Okay, the question is, do we see the 3D design and construction being used for utility coordination and conflict analysis?
Yeah, I think on the contractor end, that's what we're hoping for. Because as y'all know, anything that's subground, subterranean, it'd be great to know where it's at, right, before you mobilize into that area. So I believe that's the goal, is to get a 3D model where you can see anything underground.
From the designer's perspective, well, there's actually a research project going on right now about 3D utilities, but that research project has more to do with 3D utilities in the future with a database where we basically maintain a model of the utilities that can be brought into the project and check for clash detection, make decisions early on. But as far as actually including 3D utilities in our current project, it's pretty straightforward. And the software already exists in our current version of ProjectWise, or MicroStation Geopack. It's called SUE, and it definitely will be there in the upcoming SS4 version 2, which will have SUE as well as the drainage component. So we'll be able to look at all underground utilities and any kind of underground feature for clash detection and that sort of thing.
But again, all of that is based on the accuracy of the level of SUE work that we get on the project.
Exactly. So we need to, when you hire your SUE consultants, you need to, kind of start asking them to deliver a 3D model of your level A type stuff for sure, and any kind of elevation data they may have for level B and level C. Of course, it would be annotated as such, but yeah, we need to start making that happen, and I think it's pretty straightforward from there as far as clash detection and that sort of thing.
Anyone else? Yes? Okay, the question is the 3D aspect of doing the design work worth the extra time? Okay.
So, well, is it worth the extra time? I say absolutely it is. It really is worth the extra time because we have to understand that, like we mentioned this morning, we're moving forward with innovation in the future, and the future of transportation is providing a 3D model to the contractor. If we want to be the generation that takes that step to move forward and get everything moving, we need to get on board. And then also, there's support for older software like Geopack. Geopack is not in the Connect version. So if you're planning to keep a GBK and then keep upgrading all the softwares, that's not going to happen because you're not going to have that capability. So we need to learn the 3D design aspect of things, and we need to get things moving because in a couple of years or a few years from now, we may be in a bind in the sense that we can't get our projects out because the software may not be supported.
So if I can just add, the extra time is just going to be up front, right? I mean, as far as getting trained up for the software and then the learning curve that's involved with it, because the software, it's pretty straightforward what's going on, but there's quite a bit of nuances. But as we move forward from there, into our production, we'll probably see a time savings of, anecdotally in our office, we're seeing like 15% time savings, just because you can generate, models pretty quickly, including just changing your cross sections or templates and that sort of thing, as well as you can, you can do scenarios very rapidly and just kind of check for, run it by your APD folks real quick. What do we want to do here? So the time there is a time savings once we get going in all of this.
If you had to quantify the cost in the training and the upfront time to get the learning down in order to get efficient at that new 3D workflow, what would you say was involved in that?
So our training, expectation for training, especially if you're just starting out, it's probably about 100 hours of training to get per person to get your office going. I guess as we move forward into the future, once you have the expertise residing in the office, maybe you can reduce some of that training for new employees. And then, like I think I said a second ago, there's probably at least a 2-month, learning curve, 1 to 2 month learning curve, and that's on a fairly complex project where you just you pretty much have to try everything, and so you're going to learn more quickly, I guess. But even with that learning curve on a large, on a fairly large project, you're going to see a time savings.
Yeah. And just to add on to that also, guys, plan development, we've been doing this for about, a year and a half, almost. What I'm trying to get at is that there's help out there. If y'all are trying to get started, NTT is a very good source, the CAD group. Go ahead and give them a call if you got some questions. There's plan development available also. All our projects, everything that we do in PS&E is in 3D. And that staff, everyone in there is just amazing. They're really good. So you could call up and, Brent and I are not available. I'm sure we could get you someone else that could help you out. And then also, there's also Bentley Learn, right? So y'all are probably familiar with it. If you're not, all TxDOT employees have a Bentley Learn account. So I believe the password, I don't want to give out the password here. It's a pretty bad idea. But contact the CAD department and tell them you want your Bentley Learn password and all that. It's free on-demand training. Robert, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, I do want to add, because we've been talking about Bentley predominantly here, but on the contractor end, it all depends on your vendor, who you buy equipment from. We currently use Trimble and Leica, and we do use Trimble software, and it's probably about the same learning curve, about 2 or 3 months. That's the software. On the machine control and using the equipment, we're seeing a quick learning curve. A week that the vendor goes out there, shows the operator how to run it, and they're up and running in a week.
Yes, sir.
I guess this question for Robert. When you get a service from, or actually maybe I should say, have you received a service yet you've been able to work with the designer? If you have, what have you done with it? Have you recreated it? And if you've done that, then the question is, what can we be doing that might make this more efficient for you?
Okay, let me see if I can capture that. For Robert, from the construction perspective, have you received a service from TxDOT? And if you have you had to do significant alterations for it, or what is your process that you would use for using that service?
Actually, we have not received an XML that we've used. We actually create our own in-house, but that's our goal here, is to try to get the 3D surface from them. We currently create our own surfaces at William Bros, but we restrict it to the prioritized jobs. In other words, the ones that are hot, the ones that are critical. And the great thing about what TxDOT's talking about is you're talking about from right away to right away. And for us, that's priceless, because we just don't have the resources right now to provide that type of model.
What are we doing to incorporate consultants into this?
Is that like the construction one, or
It's design.
Design.
Oh, well, you could start using MicroStation SS3. That's what we're using. We'll be going to SS4, as you saw in Peter's presentation. I guess he said in January or March.
And November, starting in November.
So that's the software we're using. So.
Yeah. If I could add, so basically our dealings with the consultants have been, as they kind of call us, we'll tell them, yeah, we encourage you to start using this kind of software. The questions that are coming up now are, can we go to SS4? And our answer initially was at first was, no, y'all need to hold off till we do, because they're SS3, right, is not backwards compatible with, or SS4 isn't backwards compatible to SS3. And so, but now that we're going to SS4, any consultants that are asking, we're saying, sure, go ahead. And, as far as other than that, when they're written into your, as new contracts come out, they're requesting the 3D design, or, the project managers are, or we're certainly encouraging them to. So if you haven't started yet, I would encourage consultants to bring it up to their project managers at TxDOT.
And with the ProjectWise workspace opening up more here in the near future for the consultant work, that should make that easier. Let's see, there was another, yes, sir. The question is, are we including language in our engineering services contracts for what we're looking for from our consultants in the way of 3D design?
So I think initially, as far as the templates that the PEPS folks have, we worked with PEPS to include that language into the contract templates, the exhibit, I can't remember what it's called. But really still, that's an option in there, for the districts to choose or not to choose. So we just need to start encouraging that we want to use the open roads methods in any case that it's applicable. So it is kind of making its way. I know it's in the templates, but we just need to follow through and make sure it happens.
So is that something that we at the design division can assist the districts with as far as getting some of that language and helping review some of that language for them?
Well, from plan development, if y'all are looking to see, all right, well, what's a corridor, what's a template, like if you need to get into the technical aspect of things, saying what you want to require in your contract, well, I have no problem if you give me a call or give Brent a call, Max. You know, we could tell you the technical aspect if you want to hear it. That's no problem. Now, as far as what you want to get out of it, that's still up to the individual. That's the way I see it.
So we can assist with some of the technical aspects of the contract language to make sure that you'll get what you want out of your contracts.
And just one last thing I'd like to offer. If any project that you do for the TxDOT project managers that you consult out, if you normally would get a cross-section deliverable, I would definitely request that you request that the job be done in open roads via the model, even if you don't want a model as part of your deliverable. I mean, because you're just going to get better cross-sections and better design.
Okay. I think we had another question over here. At least I thought we saw one. Oh, back here. Okay, I think the question was, have we had any problems with any features in our open road models? Was there any more to that? Okay, format issues or issues with any of the pieces in the models with open roads?
I don't think so. Well, there is times where, so I'm a little confused on the question in the sense that if you're asking if there's issues with feature definitions or surfaces, ultimately that depends on how the workspace is set up. You have to see how a feature definition acts in your workspace. And then if you're asking for like issues with the software in general, that's why I didn't know where the question was going. You know, there's little things here and there for the learning curve that you have to pick up on. And we're available to help and let you all know. And I believe we posted those on the 3D design webpage. We have it's rather older PowerPoint, but we do list workflow stuff that we found to be beneficial.
We have a standard work interface and some standard feature definitions that we have that are required for use statewide, am I correct?
That's correct.
Any more questions that we have out there? Yes, sir. Okay, the question is, do we envision the future going from a paper set review to basically a digital review of the model, maybe even a constant review of the model as you would? So I'll fill that out.
Yes, I mean, model's going to have to be part of the review.
Yeah, no, I think it really depends on the type of project you're working on. You know, if you have this huge, you know, direct connector, like $1 billion project, then, you know, creating a 3D model by the 30%, you know, you're probably gonna lose your hair, you know, because that's sure it's a quick turnaround on something like that. But if you have like a simple project, I don't see a problem knocking out a 30% a model. You know, for our 30%, we had to provide cross sections. And like I mentioned, if you're doing cross sections, you're creating a 3D model. So we created some preliminary 3D models, and we had those completed by 30%. We didn't have to show the 3D models, but we did have to show the cross sections.
So do you see the future where a set of actual paper plans might not be the deliverable?
Yes, we do. And, you know, as we do move into the future, obviously we're going to get away from, you know, our 2D set of plan and profile sheets and probably some other details as well, and more towards where the model is the deliverable item that will also, you know, be given to the contractors and to the reviewers for review, and then the contractors for bidding or letting and construction. And that's starting to get into what I think, well, what is called the BIM model, which started in architecture, which is the building information model. That's where the model actually becomes part of a, you know, a living model, and it's there for the whole life cycle of the project. So yes, the model is going to be the governing feature, or, you know, the governing item, and it's going to be the deliverable.
What about from a construction perspective?
From the construction perspective, it's hard to imagine, right? Because that's our contract, the set of plans. So I guess the future, I see it. There's some questions I did ask on that, and one was the infamous change orders. You know, how do we handle those? And I think y'all's answer was y'all would have to provide them in 3D model. If that's the future, I guess that's where technology is going to take us.
Yes, you have a question over here.
I just got a question as far as, you know, once the project's complete or even as you run forward, what about as-built? Would that be like designer responsibility, contractor responsibility, or, you know, who maintains the model so for 20 years down the road, you can still use that model if you have to, you know, a little wider?
So, okay, let me get the question. The question was, as we go forward and we start looking heavily into these models, how do we maintain as-builts, and who takes responsibility on updating the models and then storing and keeping the models for future use?
So TxDOT will be, you know, TxDOT, whoever designed it or whoever whoever maintains kind of the as-built as the project moves along, will have to update the model. And like I said, you know, the future is that model is going to be there for the whole life cycle of that project, from pre-design, design, construction, maintenance for the life of the project, and then where the next project comes along, you know, they demo that and then, you know, start off with that model demo and then build a new one. So TxDOT's going to be maintaining that model as part of their, you know, inventory, or, you know, their asset, maintaining their asset.
Yeah, and my idea for the as-builts, you know, it's not too far-fetched an idea, but I would love to have it where the as-builts are connected to your control section in like a geospatial way, where you could just click on the CSJ and you could see your previous models that were done. And I don't know if it'd be a problem on the contractors end. This is kind of my question to you, Robert, in the sense of providing us, how hard would it be to provide us a final surface of what was actually constructed?
I mean, it'd definitely be a chore. I mean, you're talking about going back and as-builting every aspect of the job. So there's a lot of aspects to that, the safety being one when you already have open roads. It's doable, but I think if we maintain control quality and use the control that TxDOT gives us, and I think really you don't need an as-built. I think just maintaining the same control and ensuring that there was good quality when you set up your job. And that's, guys, that's just traditional surveying. That's traditional running a traverse, making sure you got good tight control on the project.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Going back to that aspect question and maintaining the waterfall life cycle of the project, like a PDF or paper copy, we know it doesn't change all the time, but technology changes every 2-3 years. Will it be even practical to bring out all the water?
Okay, the question is, with the way we do it now, we do our as-built as a paper or PDF, hard copy that don't change. Is it practical to keep those as a model even with the changing technology?
My answer to that is, we'll, you know, obviously going to have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But we do want to, you know, maintain it through the life cycle of the project. So, you know, without having a definite answer, we would hope that the software folks have that in mind as they develop their software.
And if I could add a little bit of that, we are actually working pretty close with Bentley on each one of these software upgrades. So we do have a voice with them about how some of that comes along. We don't necessarily have a huge effect, but we do have a little bit of their ear.
And that is an excellent question. I think we need to raise with Bentley at the next opportunity.